everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we're really excited today. We have a special bonus episode for y'all. We are here to talk with the writers of the book for the new stage adaptation, the new musical adaptation of Christmas in Connecticut that is playing at the Pioneer Theater Company right now in Salt Lake City, where I am from. And so I got a chance to see the adaptation this last Saturday. I have my review up on my theater review site, so you definitely want to check that out. And we know that Christmas in Connecticut is a favorite of many of the Hallmark viewers. So we thought it would be a perfect chance to kind of talk about not only Christmas in Connecticut, why we love it so much, this new adaptation, but also just the whole process of creating a new musical. It's very exciting. And so we have with us today, we have Pacheco and Erik Forrest Jackson here with us. And thank you both so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, so I'd like to give you both a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you ended up being involved in this project and how you ended up being a musical theater writer. What about you, Patrick? Why don't you go first?
Well, for the longest time, and I'll try to give you the short version, so cut me off anytime you want. But for the longest time, I was actually a journalist. I wrote for the LA Times, for the New York Times, for the Wall Street Journal, covering the theater here in New York for decades. And in 1998, I wrote a feature for the Los Angeles Times on The Lion King and met Peter Schneider, who was the head of Disney Animation for many, many years, and also briefly president of the studio. When Peter resigned in 2001, he called me up and said, let's do projects together. And lucky for me, Peter's a person with no rules, so he kind of pushed me over onto the other side, which is no longer writing about or reviewing journalistic articles about Broadway theater, but actually collaborating with him. And so I wrote Waking Sleeping Beauty, a documentary about his 17 years as the head of Disney Animation. We then did various projects. I rewrote Pal Joey, a revisal for him, which had its premiere at the Arkansas Rep. And then I also wrote a performance art piece with a Florentine performance artist. And Peter was also instrumental in helping Christmas in Connecticut get off the ground. And that was, I saw the film, and Erik and I were working together on a number of different projects. And so we were always looking to do a new project together. And a friend of mine had seen Christmas in Connecticut. I had never seen it. I looked at it. I sent it to Erik. He looked at it. We both became enthusiastic about it. I then sent it to Peter, and Peter usually takes a very skeptical view of anything that I send to him, but he was immediately enthusiastic about this. He set up a meeting for us with Warner Brothers Theatricals, which owned the rights to the film, and we met with Mark Kaufman, and Mark Kaufman said to us, if you had come in for any of our other titles, I probably would have turned you down. Nobody has asked me for the rights to adapt Christmas in Connecticut into a musical. And like you two, I think it would make a great musical. So here's the rights. We then went, and Peter also introduced us to Broadway licensing, which licensed productions across the country. They immediately liked our treatment. And by this time, we had brought in Jason Howland as a composer and Amanda Yesnowitz as a lyricist, and we were on our way to Goodspeed Opera House. And I'll let Erik get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, what about you, Erik? How did you get started?
I came to New York and began work for an edgy off-Broadway troupe called Theater Couture. And we did sort of pop culture mashup comedies and had a lot of fun sort of doing this off-Broadway material, and then began to kind of wend my way more towards some commercial work as well. And I did a Neil Sedaka musical called Breaking Up Is Hard to Do with his hits from the sort of the 50s, 60s, 70s. And but meanwhile, I was also working as a journalist because theater, famously isn't exactly the most high paying of endeavors. So I had met Patrick through my journalism work, and he hired me to work together with him at a magazine that he had started. And we just got along so well, and just had similar sensibilities. And so when he presented Christmas in Connecticut, we both just said, this material is amazing. Yeah. We fell in love with Liz and the scenario, and just this idea of kind of this Carrie Bradshaw Sex and the City character who's pretending to be Martha Stewart. Just that kind of crazy mashup of personalities really spoke to us. So it was a blast to dive into that and kind of explore.
Yeah, looking at your website, you have like such a variety of content that you have written for. I mean, Christmas in Connecticut to Carrie to the Muppets, like
yes, it's true. I mean, as a writer, you take the opportunities that come your way. Yeah. But then when I try and sort of connect the dots, it is a funny path for sure.
So were you a big fan of the movie, or were you new to it as well?
I was brand new to it. It's funny that since we started working on it for the past 3-4 years, it seems to be the Christmas classic that either you've never heard of, or it's your absolute famous holiday film. Yeah. I mean, absolute favorite, not famous. So there seems to be this dichotomy, which has been fascinating to watch. I mean, people just light up. You say Christmas in Connecticut, and they say it's my favorite, or there's just a blank look. But more and more, I think people are getting to know it.
I would bet the Venn diagram with classic movie watchers and Hallmark movie watchers, that middle is Christmas in Connecticut.
I agree. Yes.
Which is probably why I'm such a big fan of it.
Well, I think Hallmark lovers, recognize the magic of romance, the magic of possibility, the magic of escape. I mean, I think these things are all things that we really need right now. So the fact that people who love Hallmark might love our musical makes us very, very happy, because we do think that they're very symbiotic.
Yeah. Well, I was very hyped for the movie. I was very hyped for the musical, not only because I love the movie, but because my friend Tim Leninger, who reviews professional theater out of New York and Connecticut, had reviewed it last year on his channel. He was raving. And so I was like, oh, wow, this makes me very excited. So when I heard the Pioneer Theater Company was doing it, I was like, oh, wow, this is so exciting here in Utah. And what made it even, like, it was such kismet that this little local movie theater that just opened, that's only showing vintage releases, I'm so excited about, called Maven Cinemas in American Fork, Utah. They had a screening for Christmas in Connecticut on Friday. I saw the musical on Saturday, so I got to see. It was just perfect. It was like the perfect.
That's weekend. Amazing. And yesterday on the plane, Patrick and I both flew back yesterday from Utah to New York, where we live. And right there, of course, on the plane, Christmas in Connecticut is playing. Yeah. So I'm looking around at the monitors and watching people in different, spots in the movie. It's everywhere.
Yeah. It must be like such an incredible feeling to work so hard on a show like this and then see it up there on stage. I mean, I know it had been in Connecticut, but I'm sure every time it's got to be an incredible thing.
It really is.
The theater has been so supportive. Karen has been extremely supportive. Shelley Butler did a great job of directing. Yeah. And we were blessed with a wonderful, wonderful cast led by, Eric William Morris and Elise Allen Lewis, along with the rest of the cast. So it was great to see it again, a year after the Goodspeed production. And we were privileged, to be there. We felt supported, and also the audiences are very savvy, very theater savvy. So we learned a lot, and we're going to learn more, since they do surveys of the audience. And obviously we are very intent in watching the audience reaction, because that's the absolutely essential ingredient to any show that's added after weeks of rehearsal.
Well, I have a lot of feedback, mostly positive, on my review, so I'll have to send it to you all. But it was a lot of fun. I think that any Hallmarky listener that's in Utah area will have a blast with it. I mean, it is
Love to
very
hear that.
different than the movie, which, if as it's like often a common problem that us movie / theater people have, because there's so many of these screen to stage adaptations these days. And so you really have to like take off your movie fan cap and just appreciate it for its own thing, its own work of art, because they're always going to make, a bunch of changes. And there were a lot of big changes.
Yes.
But I still really enjoyed it. And ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. How did you all get connected with Amanda and Jason? So the lyricist Amanda Yasnowitz and composer Jason Howland. Erik, how did that all happen?
Sure. I mean, if I may just jump on what you were saying before, which I think is such a fascinating point, which is, adaptation is by its nature challenging for anybody who's a super fan of the source material. But there has to be a reason why you're taking that source material and putting it in a different medium. If you just replicate it, why not just watch the movie? So we asked ourselves those kinds of questions of like, how will this speak to an audience in 2023? This film that's from the 1940s. So, we really mulled these kinds of things over in many, many conversations. And so, yes, it'd be interesting for super fans to go and let us know what they think about some liberties that we've taken. But to answer your question, once Patrick and I had gotten the rights from Warner Brothers, we began sort of casting about for who our collaborators would be. And we wanted to find a composer who would have a good period sensibility, but wouldn't be just pastiche, wouldn't just give us rehash of the same old stuff that they were doing in the 40s. And Jason Howland, the composer, had done his thesis in college was a screwball musical. So Christmas in Connecticut, we would consider to be like a soft screwball comedy. It's not sort of like a Preston Sturges movie, which is like amped up to like 12 on the kind of antic meter. Christmas in Connecticut has a more of a gentle feel towards a screwball comedy in our brains. I'm watching your reaction. I'm interested to know what you think.
Sorry.
So then we got Jason on board, and then we met with a lot of lyricists, and we were struck by Amanda's sensibility, her take on feminism, and the way she just kind of attached to this Carrie Bradshaw meets Martha Stewart kind of notion.
Yeah. I just sort of was thinking to myself, I think it's definitely a screwball comedy. There's no question in my mind. I wouldn't say it's a soft screw. I would say it's very silly. I mean, the whole all the line, and especially once like the judge is involved and you've got all the different people, like the lies keep adding on, which is a big tell for screwball comedy, is lying. Sure. Unnecessary lying. I think that I can see why what you're saying about the music kind of captures that sort of vintage feel without being, too copycat.
Right. And he's
Yeah.
really built in some very contemporary, modern kind of pop hooks that it's funny at intermission and after the show, people come out and we hear them singing. So the songs really just like go right in. And, for us, they're waking us up at 3:30 in the morning, on loop in our brains, the earworm.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think especially because I think the highlight of the first act is the ornament song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Grow the ornament song, in that whole sequence. I think,
yes,
honestly, once they get to the house, I think is when it really starts going.
good.
And if I were going to offer any constructive view, is like, get to that house sooner. That's when it starts. The energy starts going for me. And I thought the second act was, not that I disliked the first act, but I thought the second act was a lot stronger than the first act. And it really had kind of to me, the second act kind of had like a noises off energy. And with all the different doors and all the different people coming in, you've got like six different people, all these different couplings, and people, all the lies keep adding up, and that makes it, a lot of fun.
Great.
That was the joys of having the Pioneer production, because we got to the farmhouse quicker in the Pioneer production than at Goodspeed. So that was so your instincts were correct, and perhaps we can get to it even faster. But obviously, one of the changes was that Barbara Stanwyck in the film was such, in her own personality and her own persona, such a feminist. And that gave us the idea, working with Jason and Amanda, to make that feminism a bit more manifest. To be the beginning, we know nothing in the film about her background, how she actually came to write the column, and we knew nothing in terms of what the setup at all. So we felt somewhat incumbent in terms of trying to show who she was prior to this plot being hatched by her and Dudley, which of course is in the film. And then we get, as you say, to the farmhouse and the hijinks ensue.
But when I was watching the movie, I was struck by how modern she really is as a character. And I think there's something to the effect of the fact that she doesn't have kind of motivation beyond she just wants to pay for this fur that she got. That's her main motivation for writing in the movie. And there's something that's actually, I think, kind of more feminist about that she is sort of, there's like an added snark, I think, of the fact that she doesn't have to actually like say, I'm an independent woman. She just is, right? She just,
she is, but I would just point out that she caves to John's proposal. As if she can't have anything better in life, which is a moment, as much as I love the film, I always go, what? You're Barbara Stanwyck. You don't have to marry this sap.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of wondered if that was the catalyst for creating the Victor character, because that is sort of the one, I guess, not modern part of the movie, is that why would she agree to marry this guy? She never would. But
and since you're a vintage film buff, Victor is basically modeled on the Greta Garbo character in
Ninotchka.
Do you know Ninotchka?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, he was very
one of
much
my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And there was this idea of taking a character who is so ideological, coming to the to the West, and then being attracted through love to somebody else. And it set up the oil and water dynamic between Victor and Liz in that way, and also in the way of Beatrice and Benedict in the Shakespeare comedies.
Yeah, I mean, it's very enemies to lovers, of course, which you go back to Lizzie and Darcy, that you want to see. And I guess the thing I do like in the movie is that I think it's kind of nice. The fact that she's so surprised that she's attracted to this soldier. She's not expecting to like this soldier, which I think is kind of an interesting dynamic. And so it was a very interesting choice to me to go from to that. That's obviously the biggest change that you all make is adding this character Victor. She doesn't fall in love with the soldier anymore. And so, yeah, I mean, I was just curious kind of like what your process was it sort of starting out of that, like, oh, you don't like her with John, who's going to be the fake relationship? How did that all develop? Does that make sense?
Well, I think in a nutshell, Patrick, you can explicate further, but I think for us, the idea of sustaining a 2-hour musical in 2023 in which it's predestined from the get-go that this woman and this man are going to end up together. It just didn't seem like that would hold an audience's attention. And it seemed to us that that we could do more justice to this woman's aspirations and the challenges that she has to face, which haven't changed a lot since 1940s to 2023, what women are still dealing with in terms of the patriarchy. So we really wanted to kind of be able to delve into that a little deeper.
Because really, when you watch the movie, it's like, again, it's surprising how modern of a character she really is. I mean, for a woman in 1945 to have like no idea how to change a diaper, no idea how to like flip a pancake. Like, I mean, she was very like she was not the woman that you think of like 1945 women, but so it's pretty interesting, you know, how that would translate to a modern audience.
Right. And we turned a lot to, you know, to Amanda as you know, the woman on our team to really make sure that, you know, the things that we were all delving into had authenticity, you know, felt right. That they weren't some imposition of, you know, my white cis male brain onto, you know, what a woman might think. So luckily we really kind of kept that all in tandem.
Yeah. I have to ask if you watched the Schwarzenegger version.
Clips.
I can't say that I did actually. Erik, you watched parts of it?
Just clips, yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Rachel, did you see it?
I have not seen it. I've just heard about it. I need to watch it.
It's fairly legendary in that kind of like, what did they do? Kind of way.
Yeah, if people don't know, Schwarzenegger directed the remake in the 90s, I think for Lifetime or someplace like that.
With Diane Cannon and Chris Christopherson, I believe.
Right.
And updated it, which was always the first question we got. You know, the first question we got were, are you going to update it? And I thought, we thought, no. There's something so rich about musical theater in wartime, and I think one of the highlights of the of the first act is Jefferson singing the American Dream and expressing in that a really strong feeling at a time when the country is so torn apart that there was this unified vision because of World War II, and that the American dream was so alive, and that in fact people like Jefferson and Mario, for that matter, the additional character, were fighting for that at that time. And there's something about World War II and Christmas as well that feeds into a nostalgic yearning for innocence and sweetness and sacrifice as well, which I think is also an element of a Christmas musical.
That's true. I mean, you think of like White Christmas and Holiday Inn, and there were just so many films during that era. I mean, even It's Wonderful Life, during that era that, made an impact. So that makes sense. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's The Trouble with Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow. It is the first of the Brook Hollow series. In best-selling author Jennifer Snow's sweet, wholesome Christmas romance, The Trouble with Mistletoe, our heroine learns that you can't say no to a mistletoe kiss, no matter who's under it. Since leaving Brook Hollow and her fiance Luke Dawson 12 years earlier, Victoria Mason hasn't looked back. She's traded the small-town dream of marriage, kids, and family Christmas dinners for late nights working at a high-powered acquisitions firm, lunches at trendy New York restaurants, and jet-setting vacations on the slopes. So her latest work assignment to acquire Brook Hollow's sporting goods store poses a challenge for Victoria in more ways than one, because it's almost Christmas and she's got other holiday plans, and the owner is reluctant to sell, and the owner is Luke. She needs to wrap up the deal before she gets caught up in her old life and her old love, or becomes trapped under the mistletoe again. You can find The Trouble with the Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow wherever you purchase your holiday reads, or use the affiliate link in the description below. So you came up with this character of Gladys as being this like fact checker, working with the publisher, and she's immediately sort of suspicious of Liz and this whole charade. So Patrick, what was that like, kind of coming up with this character?
Well, I think we wanted to heighten the stakes, obviously, in any musical, in any show. What's important is, what are the stakes? What's at risk? And how do you heighten that? And so there was this whole idea of the truth versus fiction, and which we're dealing with now in contemporary terms. And so we thought that the addition of Gladys into the musical would heighten the stakes. So obviously at the first act, she appears at the farmhouse and she's there to discover the truth that they're, juggling frantically. So that was basically our impetus to put Gladys in as well. And then, of course, it leads to her own romantic entanglement.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was smart to have kind of as many couples as possible within this one house. That was fun.
We're glad to hear that. We are very happy to hear that, Rachel.
Yes.
We also, it's interesting because this is a slight detour, but Pioneer is on the University of Utah campus. So we've had a lot of students who've kind of been in the building with us. There's interns, there's students have been coming to see the show, and it's been wonderful to get these reactions from 18-year-olds and 22-year-olds, and to see that the show speaks to them as well as somebody who maybe was born in the 40s and kind of grew up on this movie. So the fact that we're appealing to a younger sensibility and it's connecting made us very happy that it's not just some musty period piece, made for only folks with gray hair.
Right. Well, I think the highlight of the show, I think the strongest section is the chemistry song. I think it was the strongest song. I think it was the strongest, like the way it was directed, the way it was executed, everything. Like I said, it has sort of noises off kind of energy. I don't know. What does that surprise you at all to hear that?
Well, no, we love it. That's a new song for this. Yeah, this production, that's a new song.
Good.
We realized that this song follows a scene when a blizzard has knocked out the power in the farmhouse, and all of the various romantic interest folks are sneaking out of their rooms and walking around in candlelight, and it's kind of Scooby-Doo, a lot of near misses, and a lot of romance kind of comes to the fore. And then finally, all of the folks sing this song in tandem. Called Chemistry. And it delights me too. I have to say, the first time I heard it, Jason sent us a demo. He was singing Amanda's lyrics, and even in its barest form, we recognized, this is it. This is the way that the bow is just getting tied. So we're really happy to hear that you responded so strongly to that.
Yeah. And then the next scene I thought was really strong it's kind of in that same section, was the whole scene where they kiss in the dark. That was good rom-com writing, because she thinks it's Jefferson and it's
Victor.
It's Victor. it's just a romantic scene. They kiss in
I
the
mean,
dark.
obviously, at first she thinks that she's talking to Victor, and then in the
Yeah.
process of talking to Victor, realizes that it's Victor. She thinks he's Jefferson,
Right.
and never discovers until a later scene that, oh my God, she always knew along.
Yeah.
It was me.
And I
Yeah.
thought that actor was really good in the Utah production playing Victor. He had a swagger to him. He was very attractive, and it's like, this guy could be in Hallmark movies.
He should
Eric
be.
William Morris.
Eric William Morris.
Yeah.
Remember that name.
Looks, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people in the lobby thought that he was a movie star.
Yeah, right.
And also, he is the kindest person on the planet. He is all of that you're getting from the character, the goodness inside is all within him as a real person.
Right.
Now, we'll tell you a secret that you probably may or may not have known. It's not even a secret at all, but they're married in real life, at least.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes. Okay. The woman who plays Liz and the man who plays Victor, her love interest, are real life couple.
No way. Well, that's why they must have had such good chemistry then.
Good. Yeah. No, it's all in the writing. It's just the writing.
That's right. Well,
that doesn't always happen, actually.
Yeah.
I've seen real life married couples on stage and they have no chemistry.
Well, this happens all the time in Hallmark movies. You have real life couples who just fizzle on the movies, because I think the problem is that they're so comfortable with each other that it lacks that spark.
Right.
But here,
Erik and Lisa are just very good actors.
They could get it. They could get that spark. So that was good.
Totally.
My other favorite scene, I did really like the ornament song at the end of Act 1. I thought that was really fun. And then I thought the Christmas dinner scene with the goose was probably my second favorite scene of the whole show. It kind of reminded me a little bit of one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever, is in While You Were Sleeping, when they're eating dinner and they're just all having all these different conversations at the same time. And one of them's talking about Cesar Romero, and one of them's talking about mashed potatoes, and one of them's talking, and they just go back. It's brilliant. It's perfect writing, in my opinion. And
that's also new
on my watch list.
That song is new to this production.
Oh, see, you all crushed it. Yeah.
Well, we learned so much in Connecticut at good speed, and we found where the pockets that just weren't working were. And so hopefully we've fixed them. Yeah.
Well, it's really funny because it's just little things, like he's expected to be this expert goose carver, poultry carver, because of her articles and everything that she's written, and he's like a vegetarian. So that's just like a funny juxtaposition to be like, he's like, what, and he's all this activist guy, and he's having to carve the goose. And
right, because if he doesn't play along, his brother has threatened to sell the farm where he's living, and the brother hates the farm. He's a city guy. So Victor really has to step up and go, okay, I guess I got to do it.
Was it hard to sort of know kind of, okay, like what scenes from the movie to include and which ones, there's like iconic scenes from the movie, like the pancake flipping scene and things like that. Like, was it hard to kind of know what to keep in and what to leave out?
Well, it seemed, in terms of the pancake scene, it seemed that there was not a lot of stakes in her flipping a pancake, and it all led to that one big moment. Other things like stealing the carriage, and going off in the carriage and ending up in jail and stuff were a little bit difficult to pull off in the theater. Stage. And also it seemed to be something of a diversion that wasn't needed, because of course you only have 2 hours, or a little more than 2 hours. I think the show comes in at about 2 hours. And you also have to add these songs. So a lot of things have to be sacrificed in terms of where a movie can leisurely and in close-up do a lot of what songs then need to do, or other things need to do as well. So there were just certain things that we were not constrained, but I think whenever you are limited, that expands the imagination. That's one of the ironies of it, is that it gives you an opportunity to perhaps try to do even more. And there were just certain aspects of the film that we thought the time might be better served in other ways. You just can't get in everything that you might want. Yeah. We did have in Goodspeed Makushla, the cow, at one point.
Oh, really?
Represented by a swishing tail, which we hated to lose. But that was all part of the discussions that we had about economy, which when you have a stage musical, you're always talking about economy in the book to make way for this, the songs, because it's called a musical.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Erik, was that hard for you to kind of know, okay, what scenes are we going to include? Which ones are we going to take out?
Once we arrived at what we thought the spine of the show was, which was this character of Liz being a true kind of iconoclast and authentic and kind of losing her way, getting caught up in the success, enjoying the materialism and kind of forgetting about the stuff that she really, truly cared about in her heart. That idea of authenticity then informed kind of like a coat rack, like what hangs off of that steel rod. The show is the steel rod. So what makes sense with that? So certain things like Makushla just didn't end up being as crucial to her journey as necessary. So
yeah,
it goes by the wayside. They call it killing your darlings.
Yeah.
You write these scenes, you write these jokes, you're in love with them, and for whatever reason, they just don't need to stay, and you just have to ruthlessly murder.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine the process. I mean, how long have you all been working on this? How long has it been in process?
It's been a fast
4 years.
Remarkably fast.
Yeah. I mean, musicals sometimes take 5 years, 10 years just to get to their first workshop. And now we're probably maybe the 3-4 year mark, and happily we're into our second production. And after this, it will, it'll become available to license anywhere. So any theater that wants to do it has the opportunity. So we hope that starting 2024, there'll be 50 productions around the country and Canada and perhaps even the UK. That's our dream. That's our goal, is just to spread as much joy as we can.
Well, we want to hear about all the different productions, that's for sure. And the process, I am blown away by anybody who takes on any creative enterprise, but especially a Broadway musical. I mean, oh my gosh. Like I just reviewed and got to see the Gutenberg, the musical in October, and the journey that those creators went on for that thing. Oh my gosh. Like it actually did a tryout or an initial workshop or whatever in Utah in 2007. Way back in 2007. And
wow.
Gosh, they've been working on
it's a journey. I mean, it's kind of funny. We laugh all the time. We're making this hopefully fluffy romantic musical comedy with some, serious themes under there. So that there's some meat for folks.
Yeah.
But, it's like going to battle. I mean, your time is limited. Your resources are limited. You're dealing with live human beings who, get colds or have bad days or, things like that. And it's just this constant, difficulties, and you just soldier ahead. And then hopefully people come in and have a wonderful, blissful escape for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that anything gets done, really.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Speaking of Christmas and miracles, we kind of consider our show a miracle.
No.
We do.
Yeah, we do. I know. Lately, I've been seeing so many of these posts about people saying, oh, Hallmark movies, it's like they just put it into Chat GPT and that, then they make a movie. And I'm like, y'all have no idea how much work goes into these movies. Like, I don't know, I've interviewed enough writers, I've interviewed enough directors, I know how much work goes into the creation of even something as simple as you think a Hallmark
Well,
rom-com.
people love to be dismissive too. People love to
Yeah.
yuck your yum. And it's like, you know what? Just
Yeah.
let people enjoy. Like if that's giving
Especially
pleasure,
things made for women, or
yes. Mhm.
that those are inherently almost always seen as stupid or weird or gross, or
Right. Or if
some
you like
variation on
them,
that.
yes. And if you like them, it has to be a guilty pleasure.
Yes.
Why guilt? Why can't it just
Yeah.
be a pleasure?
Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
the demeaning. I hate that. I hate
Mhm.
when they're like, drama is more important and better than comedy. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Things like that, just
Yeah.
these absolutes are crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I was so happy. I mean, I'm 100% sure that Hollywood will take all the wrong lessons, but I was really happy for Barbie's success because I think it just showed that people are interested in things that are feminine and pink and girly, and that's not bad, and we don't need to shun them, and it's okay.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think the
Yeah.
younger generation is definitely going to save us in that
Mhm.
respect because
Mhm.
they're not just straight up binary. They're not gender
Right. Yeah.
stereotype. They're much more open. We've
Mhm.
seen it with the students coming to Pioneer. They're just,
Mhm.
there's some, I don't spoiler
Yeah.
alert. There may even be some queer elements in Christmas in Connecticut.
Yes.
And there's just let's just
It's fun.
expand consciousness. Let's just open minds.
Yeah. Everybody can have joy and a fun holiday rom-com.
And is deserving of it.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, my last question was this part was just going to be why do you think a Hallmark fan will enjoy? What would be your pitch if you were selling it to the Hallmark listeners?
In a word, it's romantic.
Yes.
That you really root for the couples that are a part of it to be together, and they do end up together, having overcome any number of lots of fun, tricky obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, how do I better that?
Yeah. Well, and you got all the Christmas, you got all the holiday feels that you could want in a Christmas player story.
I think we're very aware of tropes and we're very aware of territory that's been trod before. So what we try to do is just, take some familiar things and make them a little less familiar and hopefully a little surprising.
That's what we do hope, that there will be some surprises, or there are some delightful surprises in the course of the musical.
I mean, basically they have in the holiday Broadway musical lineup, there's obviously Christmas Carol, there's A Christmas Story, the musical, there's Elf, the musical, and there's White Christmas. And I would be thrilled if we had a fifth one in that round.
That's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping to be. We would love to be number 5.
Yes,
because we're big fans. I'm a particular fan of Benj and Justin's Christmas Story.
It's fun.
I think it's really funny and very, very charming.
Yeah, that's the one that I reviewed on Friday. So then I reviewed Christmas Story on Friday, and then I went to for Utah Theater Bloggers, and so then I reviewed Christmas in Connecticut on Saturday.
Wonderful.
So yeah,
we're in good company.
When you reached out to us for this, it was, I have to say, it was instantly thrilling to me because I do feel like, as you described that Venn diagram, this show is exactly for who's listening now and the people who are following, the masses who are following you. I think that we're all of a similar mind, and I think that they'll find a lot to like in Christmas in Connecticut.
I think so too.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
We like to end with some fun, get to know you holiday questions. So,
Oh boy.
all right. First question is, what is your favorite holiday drink? So what about you, Patrick?
Well, I guess I was raised on eggnog. We're not with the alcohol in it, of course. But to me, Christmas always means my mother's eggnog.
Yeah. What about you, Erik?
I always hated eggnog. It was always my father and my brother would drink the eggnog, and it became a whole thing. The nog this, the nog that, and but I have to say, in the past couple of years, I've come around. Although there's also a Cuban version. My partner Javier, I can't remember the name of it right now, of course, but there's a Cuban version of eggnog, which I think might have the edge for me. I can't think of the name. He's going to kill me. Javier, if you're watching.
Now, Rachel, our favorite Christmas drink is the Old Magoo.
The Old Magoo.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
We got to make the Old Magoo famous.
Yes. All right.
Magoo.
And what is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Oh,
I love gingerbread.
You go first.
I'm a gingerbread guy. I have to say that ginger spice, it just gets me every time.
Yeah, I don't like fruitcake, but I like Bush Noel. My friend is my late friend, God love him, is owned Chez Josephine restaurant here in New York, and he would always serve Bush Noel, which of course is Yule log.
I mean, you can't get it wrong with a cake and whipped cream and
unless like in our show you drop it in someone's lap.
True. That's true. All right. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
Oh, well, mine, there's two actually, if I may. Turkey Lurkey from Promises, Promises. And there's a great video. If you want to just get a broad smile on your face, go to YouTube and just Google Turkey Lurkey. And the other one, I guess they're both from Broadway musicals, and that is Hard Candy Christmas from Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. It's a sad song, but I like to cry.
Yeah. Well, there are some sad. I mean, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. There's some sad. What about you, Erik?
I'll give you two. I have to say my all-time favorite is Donny Hathaway's This Christmas, which is a rockin' great groove. And then I have a new one that I really love, and it's Casey Musgraves singing a song called Glittery.
Oh, I don't know that one. I'll have to check it out.
It's fairly recent and it's very poppy, but I have to say it gets me right in the spirit.
Yeah. Cool. All right. What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
Christmas in Connecticut.
That's what I was going to say. You better say.
Yes.
And I'll say also, just to be controversial, A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay. So you are on the team Christmas movie.
I mean, there's a bit in the show that we wrote that Liz says she's actually more of a Halloween girl than a Christmas girl. And I guess I'm kind of more of a Halloween girl ultimately. But Nightmare Before Christmas lets me mix them both up.
Cool. Yeah.
Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, Christmas in Connecticut and It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, it gets me every time. It's difficult to beat that classic. Like you, Rachel, I am so envious of your Maven Theater. Is that what it's called?
Maven Cinemas. It's unbelievable.
I am so envious of it because we really don't have an art house anymore in New York City, or if it's a hard one to
That's
find.
crazy. Yeah.
So envious. Totally.
Rachel, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
That's such a hard question. I am a huge animation fan. I mean, it's either Christmas, just as far as favorites. Now, I mean, I think It's a Wonderful Life is the best Christmas movie ever made. That is one of the finest films ever made. But as far as like just my favorite, it's either Christmas in Connecticut or Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah.
Either one of those.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And Home Alone. Because
Oh,
I have like a huge nostalgia for Home Alone. I mean, I do genuinely love it, but it was the first comedy that I ever really loved as a kid. And I went and saw it when I was 9 years old with my grandparents. I was on a special trip, and I just died laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
so good.
So
It's really funny.
yeah, I love it. I love it.
So good.
Okay. Which do you like better, Scrooge or the Grinch?
Oh, I'd probably, oh, God, I was going to say the Grinch, but I love the idea of second chances in movies and in musicals.
Yeah.
That some dried up old person who thinks that their life is over suddenly gets a second chance. So I have to go with Scrooge.
Yeah.
He got a second chance.
I think I'd go Grinch, just for the reasons I said earlier, which is that I love scary and Halloween and monsters, and the fact that this monster,
Yeah.
grows a heart is such a great mix of kind of the ghoulish, but also the sentimental.
Although there are the ghosts
That's true. That's true, and I do love those ghosts.
Yeah, and they say, the Christmas scary ghost stories and tales of the glory.
Right. That's right.
All right. Which do you like better, clear lights or colored?
Oh, colored for me. I love those colored lights like Liza Minnelli. Give me those colored lights. So yeah, no, I love colored, and I love those bubbled candle lights.
Oh, those are fun.
I would sit for hours as a child just watching them bubble up.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Christmas
those are fun.
Memory. I'm a Libra, so of course I'm of two minds about everything. I think outside my house, I like multicolored, and inside my house, I like white. I like monochromatic.
Yeah. All right. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Oh, snowball fight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For me.
Yeah. I think we spent so much time building a musical, we're exhausted from building. Let us just throw some crap around and just make chaos.
Yeah. Well, the thing about building a snowman is you have to have a lot of snow.
And it's work.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. It is work. You're right. That's true. All right. Do you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or not?
Terrible. I'm a terrible, terrible gift wrapper. My sisters just have it down to a T with everything, absolute perfection. I get away with just gift bags with crepe paper.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty decent wrapper. One year I decided I would for my Zen out thing, I would take up origami because it would calm me down. I just fold these papers. It was the most frustrating, difficult thing. I ended up throwing the thing against the wall because it was so hard. But somehow I can manage to keep some patience when I'm wrapping gifts, and I can make them kind of pretty.
Yeah. If I really care, that's my problem, is I just don't care that much. So I'm just like, whatever.
And they're going to rip it off anyway.
Yeah. I can make it look nice, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
All of my sister sweaters are ugly.
Yes.
I do not have a specific Christmas sweater.
Yeah. Well, you need it there in New York. It's freezing.
Well, what I was loving about the Pioneer is that all of the ushers are showing up, and they did it at Goodspeed in Connecticut as well, in their full-on Christmas attire, hats with bows and sweaters with doodads and reindeer hanging off them, and the spirit is just through.
We don't do anything halfway in Utah. That's
so good. It is so good,
including Christmas.
We totally loved it.
We loved it. We loved our time in Utah. We want to come back.
It's a fun place, and such a great theater town. I think that more shows should do their tryouts in Utah. And educated, the critic scene is pretty strong here, I think, for this type of area. And I think Shucked, they did their tryout here, and I think it went pretty well. I would love to see, also at Pioneer Theater Company, I would love to see more companies do their tryout here, and because I just think it's a very rich, vibrant theater scene. I will have seen over 125 live shows this year.
Wow.
I mean, which is just insane. But
That is.
there's just so much, and I mean, you could literally go to something every single day, and
Wow.
most of it would be quality, and most of it would be like relatively affordable and family friendly. I mean, we have all, not just family friendly, but there's just it's such a great scene, an underrated theater scene, I think, here.
My
I really
first
do.
trip to Salt Lake was for a production called Napoleon's China at SLAC, the Salt Lake Acting Company.
Yeah.
And I was so gratified that 25 years later, it's still there.
Yeah. They're great.
Because so many theaters are disappearing.
Yeah.
And it's so great,
True.
that you've expressed that it's a vibrant community. And we're so grateful to Karen, who very boldly chose to present us. And that's a vote of confidence in her audience and in Salt Lake City Theater.
Yeah, I was thrilled when I saw it on the schedule. Because I'd seen Tim's review. And but yeah, they're willing to take risks at Pioneer Theater Company, which I really appreciate. And they are an equity company, so you get the best as far as talent and production and everything. So definitely worth checking out. I'll put all the information. People are in the area. I'll put on the information. People can get their tickets, and I will also put a link to my review if people want to read that. And we just did our it will just aired today, and just aired yesterday when this airs. We did our top 12 classic Christmas movie ranking, and you'll have to listen and see where Christmas in Connecticut ranked for both me and Terry, my co-host, because it's definitely a favorite. So thank you so much for writing it, and congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment, and I hope you both have a very Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank
you
for this.
doing this.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
And I don't know if you have social media or anything like that you want to share or anything.
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, I used to tweet, but Twitter's
yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
You can find me under my 3 names on most of the other social medias.
Yeah.
Or at my full name.com.
And I'm Patrick R. Pacheco.
Great.
As well.
And also we do have a Christmas in Connecticut Instagram, which is Xmas in CT.
Oh, perfect.
So anybody who wants to follow that, we'll keep you updated on where the show plays going forward. We'll keep you up to date with what's happening in Utah. Xmas in CT on Instagram.
Great. Well, we'll put all that information in the description. You'll also definitely check it out. And it's so great to meet both of you. So
thank you so much.
Please send us the link. Please send us the link to your review.
I will. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful holiday, everyone.
I'd like to thank Erik and Patrick for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun to get to talk with them. It's really a treat for the theater critic in me and the movie critic in me to get to dive into the process and everything that goes into making something like this happen. Hope if you are in Utah that you all go and get a ticket and see Christmas in Connecticut. I think you'll really enjoy it, and hopefully it'll come to a theater near you. And if you haven't seen the movie, definitely check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. And check out our ranking of classic Christmas movies. I think you'll really enjoy that. And that we did this week. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. I have a series on Rachel's Reviews called Theater Tuesdays every Tuesday, where we talk all things theater. It's really fun. I love it. And I'll put a link down to that as well. And also we have my review of Christmas in Connecticut, the movie, on my channel. So definitely check that out. And also check out my written review of this production, rachelsreviewstheater.com. And I'll also have that in the description. So check that out. And make sure you're following us at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. If you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store, so check that out. And you can get I'm a Theater Girl shirts at the merch store, as well as I'm a Hallmark Girl. So we're really happy with those new items that we have at the merch store. And thanks so much again to Erik and Patrick, and wish y'all a very Merry Christmas. Bye, everyone.